We are a virtual society with members from all over the world. We work to promote the development of intersectional gender expertise for personal practice, to strengthen connection between gender theory, policy, and practice. We support member collaboration, team building, mentoring, and leadership like we do today in our Gender Café. We foster the production and dissemination of applied gender research. We provide a platform for the exchange of gender information and resources, and of course, advancing gender equality in the member community through coordinated feminist action. The Gender Cafe, to the next slide, please, as for some of you who have ever attended the Gender Cafe, we offer a virtual conversation series, a friendly room for members to connect. We connect gender with our practitioners, academics, and activists in one place to explore pressing gender issues and questions. It's a non-hierarchical sharing, questioning, and learning platform or beyond the classroom. So you will see that we are not only sharing experience with you, we would like also to hear from you. So it's some sharing experience with our members as well. And we hope that it will raise the profile of gender expertise together with our other activities. Next, please. So as you could see, we are using the Zoom platform. We ask you all to stay muted until we move you to the breakout room discussion. So after the presenters will have their own presentation, the participants will be going into aside breakout rooms where a couple of you will be discussing together, sharing their expertise, and you will be receiving at that time a message where it will take you automatically to the breakout room to discuss topics related to our session today. Next, please. Just to ensure that before we begin, how we facilitate this session, the Gender Cafe and the breakout rooms, we all speak from personal experience. We all work together to center and amplify the experiences of members with marginalized identities. We create space for learning. So it's not just jumping to solution, it's a sharing experience, as we mentioned before. Next. Of course, without our co-hosts, we could not have Gender Cafe happening today. I would like to welcome our three co-hosts. First, Leah Goldman. Leah is a feminist activist and practitioner, currently working with Raising Voices on Violence Against Women Prevention. But also she's taking new opportunities in social norms, change, and feminist movement building. She received her MPA in Human Rights and Gender from Columbia University. She's founding member of SGB, our colleague, and she's always looking for a new book club to join. Thank you, Leah. Our second co-host, the person who came up with the idea for the Gender Cafe, Kate Wilson. Thank you, Kate, for organizing this Gender Cafe and coming up with this important idea at this time. Kate is a founder of Kamaji Tree Consulting and Coaching, and individual and global level strategies to amplify positive change. She's originally from Australia. She has spent the last 15 years consulting internationally as a gender and social development specialist across Asia and the Pacific. Kate has also trained as a counselor and hypnotherapist, and has more than 10 years working as strategic change and leadership coach consultant. She has experience working in remote communication with high-level global leaders. She believes that change begins within, and this is what she's trying to share with us today, and we look forward for that. We also have Carmen, the third co-host. To the next slide, please. Back, yeah. So Carmen Buston Travis, she's Director of Students Affairs and Student Health and Wellness Center for Success at Montgomery College, where students, faculty present more than 160 countries. She's also the Executive Director of the American Association for Women in Community College. She has advanced training in mind, body, medicine, and approach to wellness grounded in practical evidence-based skills for self-care. And this is where all our co-hosts will take us today into practical tools and examples. One of Carmen's most prized accomplishment is the establishment of the MC's Shaw Center for Success. this which is focusing on mental health and education, human services, and more. We welcome all our three co-hosts, and now I will take it over to our first co-host, Leah Goldman, to start her presentation. Over to you, Leah.
Thanks so much, Hyatt. I just wanted to provide a little bit of framing for this Gender Cafe, and specifically the title of why it's about reclaiming self-care as a feminist value. So what is self-care? There's no universal or one-size-fits-all definition of self-care. We do know that self-care today is often defined as something that we need to do rather than a mindset that can be embodied from within. And so in this discussion, we hope to challenge and reclaim the way we understand self-care and as something that's inclusive, dynamic, and adaptive. So why is self-care a feminist issue? I think that we all feel exhausted, not just now in these uncertain times, but always working in such a personal issue. It feels like an uphill battle. And we also live in societies that tell women that their primary goal, women, and that's inclusive of all people who self-identify as women, that their goal is to support others at all times. And it's often at the expense of our own well-being. So we're selfish if we care for ourselves, and we're expected to constantly care for others. So making space and time for ourselves gives us the energy to continue our movement building in a healthy and safe way. And by treating ourselves with care, where we tell ourselves that we're deserving of care and that it's okay to care for ourselves. So why do we need to reclaim self-care as a feminist issue? In many spaces, self-care has become commodified, and this, intersects with capitalism and a lot of other global systems of oppression. So it's seen as something expensive and out of reach for a lot of people. And as mentioned earlier, it's also often, it's become something that's defined by an outside force rather than a reality that differs across individuals and communities and what's best for them. And I also just want to raise this amazing zine done by the GBV Prevention Network and Jazz and some other amazing folks on self and collective care. And Jessica Horn, who's an African feminist activist, writer, poet, and advisor on women's rights. She says that although caring for ourselves and others can often feel like an extra burden, an extra cost, or a luxury, we aim to encourage well-being as a collective strategy for preserving the movement itself, where well-being of one becomes the responsibility of all. And caring for ourselves and each other means that we need to recognize our own needs, we need to recognize our own limits, and we also need to find our community. So we'll share this presentation. You can access the amazing zine after this PowerPoint. And I'm gonna hand it over to Kate now.
Thanks, Leah. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to finally be having this Gender Cafe. It's been about 18 months in the making because I've been researching self-care for gender specialists and international development specialists for about 2 years now. But several things in my own life got in the way, which meant I had to take time out to really care for myself. But especially with everything that's going on in the world right now, we decided, okay, this is a great time to have this. So what we're trying to do today is give you a little bit to think about, but for also Carmen and I to quickly go through one practical tool that you might be able to take away. So today I'm going to talk a bit about the role of the mind in self-care, and then teach you my favorite simple tool that I use on a daily basis, sometimes more than once a day, to help me stay calm and centered, and to be able to really be with my feelings. So even before COVID-19, the research that I was doing with gender specialists, people, as Leah sort of said, people were experiencing a lot of anxiety and overwhelm and stress because working in this field, it is so personal. And a lot of people that I spoke to expressed that they would like to have more tools to help them. And I think as women in the age of social media, again, as Leah said, we receive a lot of external messaging about what self-care is and all of the things that we're supposed to do to take care of ourselves. And I find, I don't know about you, but, you know, I'm supposed to believe that when I fulfill today's definition of what self-care is, and that's usually external activities, that my cup should be filled. In some cases as well, self-care might not even be something that's talked about or even allowed, but we're supposed to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. And I think there's like a lot of mixed messages about what self-care is and how to do it, and many of those messages are gendered. But if there's one thing that I want to leave you with today that I'm super passionate about, is that self-care doesn't start out here. It actually starts in here. I firmly believe that it's something we can all practice no matter where we live or who we are, because it's not about what we do for ourselves. Our wellness has much less to do with that and much more to do with the internal activities that are going on in our mind. So we can practice self-care by paying attention to how we feel, by being aware of how we speak to ourselves in our head, and by being aware of how much power we give to our inner dialogue. So as human beings, we all have an inner dialogue. And when I started training as a counselor and started understanding about how the mind works, it's actually quite fascinating, because 70% of our thoughts have some form of negative content. And that's because the role of our mind is to keep us safe. So our mind is always on the lookout for danger. It wants us to be safe. And in order to be safe, the story that it's made up is that we need to feel loved and we need to fit in and belong. So our mind is always on the lookout for danger to any of those things. In reality, many of the things that our mind tells us that are dangerous today are not really dangerous at all. But because of the way we've evolved as human beings, it doesn't stop us from having those unhelpful thoughts. So in its attempt to keep us safe, the mind has become this amazing storyteller. It loves to tell us stories all day, every day, about who we are, what we should be doing with our life, how much we should be taking care of other people, what could go wrong, what happened in the past, what could go wrong in the future. It's like this doom and gloom radio station broadcasting like an unhelpful news story that never stops. And we can't change that, because that is the way our mind it works. And the stories themselves aren't necessarily a problem, but if we become too hooked into the stories, that's when it can cause anxiety and stress and overwhelm. It can lead to depression when you just get so numbed out to the stories, can lead to addiction if you try to use external means to make those stories get quiet. And then when we go into worry and fear, there's actually a physiological process that happens in our body, and it starts to impact our well-being. So fear can stop us from making good decisions and taking care of ourselves. And often this process can be so unconscious, we're not even aware that it's happening. We're just kind of responding based on our programs. And so before COVID-19, gender specialists were experiencing anxiety, overwhelm, self-doubt, feeling overworked, feeling a lack of balance. And then, enter COVID-19 and all of the uncertainty that brings. The mind does not like uncertainty, like that is not safe. So in response to what's going on in the world right now, you might find yourself feeling anxious, overwhelmed, stressed, fear, tired, you know, any one of those feelings, or maybe more than one of them, maybe all of them in one day, if you're anything like me. So, you know, you might find yourself worrying about your future, making up a ton of stories, and all of that is totally normal. I think the challenge for many of us, though, is that we haven't really been taught any tools to be able to name and deal with what we're feeling. And that can impact on our ability to practice self-care. And I can give you a personal example. So I work from home, and now my children are all home, and I'm supposed to be working full time. And then I'm feeling so guilty that my children are spending most of the day on electronics. And so then I get done work at the end of the day and I'm exhausted, and I'd really like to take some time for myself. But because I feel guilty that they've been by themselves all day, instead of taking that time to care for myself, like I immediately turn my attention to them, and feel like I need to play with them and do things for them. And so then I feel more exhausted. I think the collective grief that we're also experiencing right now, because many people are losing loved ones, they've lost freedoms, they've lost their ability to connect with people in the way that they would like to, can also trigger unresolved grief. And for me, because my mum passed away last year, I'm noticing that I'm feeling a lot more grief. And then when I feel grief, I just feel like so tired that I want to lay in bed and do nothing. And so, you know, with less awareness, all of this could really get in the way of me taking care of myself. So I try to use my self-care tools to give myself time to actually sit with what I'm feeling so that I can move through it. Because again, the mind doesn't want us to feel stuff because feeling stuff doesn't feel safe. But the quickest way to be able to release and move through how we're feeling is to actually experience it. So I'd like to do a practical tool really quickly now to teach you how to feel your feelings. So I want to invite everybody to just close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths into your belly and turn within to connect to your body. And I want you to bring to mind perhaps a current worry or thought that you might be having in your life right now. So maybe someone you're worried about, something that you're worried about. Bring to mind an unpleasant thought. And then notice when you think about that unpleasant thought, how does it make you feel in your body? So maybe you might be feeling anxious and you might feel it in your chest. Maybe you might be feeling sad and you feel it in your stomach. I want you to name the feeling and really connect to where the feeling is in your body. And just keep breathing as you do that. And next, I would like you to identify somewhere else in your body that can represent a point of stillness. So if you're feeling anxiety in your chest, for example, maybe your hand or your stomach could represent your point of stillness. And then with your awareness, I want you to just be aware of those two places together. So I'm aware of the anxiety in my chest, and I'm aware of the stillness in my hand, and I'm just going to hold those two places together and breathe. And I'm going to allow my anxiety to exist. I'm going to be present to my anxiety and give it space to exist as I continue to breathe. And so I invite you to continue to take deep breaths and allow the feeling to exist. And if you find your mind wanting to take you into a story, I would like you to redirect your attention and awareness to the feeling. And just see what you notice. And so we don't have time to stay with this too long today, but normally if you would let yourself stay with a feeling, it often only takes about 90 seconds for it to shift. So the mind doesn't believe that you can be with this feeling without dying. But if you actually allow yourself to be with it and breathe and trust that it will leave, and as somebody's just mentioning in the comments, like the pain disappeared. Beautiful. Okay, so let's all take a deep breath in together, a nice collective breath. And yeah, just if you want to share in the chat maybe what you noticed, and we'll have more time to talk about this in the group chat, and then we'll also give more detailed instructions for this practice, but that's just kind of a little sampler. And I'm going to hand over to Carmen. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'm going to talk about self-care and how it should be a priority, and the relationship between empowerment and being self-full. So most of us are nurturers by nature. It tends to be a natural instinct for most of us. However, we have a tendency to care for everyone and everything but ourselves. So what I want to leave with you, if you're truly caring for the community, whether that's your local or your global community, groups, family, friends, children, your parents, you need to remember that you are a part of the community. Therefore, you should insert yourself into the community of care equation, is what I like to call it. It's not selfish, but it is self-full. So when we talk about self-full, what do we mean? We mean that you're taking action for your well-being in addition to those around you. It's liberation within a power of its own. And I appreciate what Kimberly Adhoc says in an article in 2013 on globalization, women empowerment, and sustainable growth, the development theory. This is what she says. She says, the best way for a woman to empower herself is through finding a power within herself and a power with others that culminates in real world capabilities. I like that word capabilities because it is that's within your own power. Self-care, as you heard earlier from our previous speakers, is freeing. It's in a form of empowerment that allows ones to be the best they can be with the things they need to do. So what I want to share is that self-care is something that's deliberate. You do on purpose to refuel, to refresh, to replenish your emotional, mental, and physical health. So let's move to the next slide. So I want you to think about this. You cannot empty your cup. You cannot pour, out of an empty cup. So you should remember to take care of yourself first. So in other words, you cannot give what you don't have. So all of us who are working in the community, in the global community, we need to remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you need to take care of yourself first. And remember that you are a part of the collective community. So you need to insert yourself into that self-full equation and do it with self-care. You want to be as good to you in order to be of service to others in the world. So I like that quote by Ayanla Van Zandt. So I'm going to try to move us through an exercise really quickly, because basically I'd echo everything that my colleague said previously about self-care, but I want to talk about a mindful practice using what we call soft belly. So some of you may have heard of soft belly meditation. It is one of the main forms of relaxation. It is a concentrated meditation. So at this point, we're going to practice, but I'm going to change the tone of my voice just a little bit so you can focus. So I'd like everybody to just get comfortable with wherever you are, typically with your feet flat on the floor. Lay your hands, relax your shoulders, wherever you are. And I want you to start taking a deep breath. So if you see the diagram here, when you inhale, because we want to focus on the importance and the benefits of the breath, right? The importance and the benefits of the breath. When you inhale, your belly should push out. So that'll let you know if you're doing it correctly. So when you take a deep breath, inhale, and then when you exhale, the belly should come in. So we're going to work through that. So take a deep breath, allowing your eyes to close to remove any external stimulation. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, then just look to the floor with soft eyes. Begin to breathe through your nose and through your mouth. Inhale, exhale. This is a very relaxing way to breathe. It may be a little unfamiliar, but you'll get used to it after a bit. So continue to breathe in, breathe out. If thoughts come, as Kate said, let them come, acknowledge them, but then let them go, because what you want to do, you want to concentrate, you want to focus, you want to come back to the breath. Allow your belly to be soft and relaxed. If the belly is soft and relaxed, more air goes to the bottom of the lungs where there's better oxygen exchange. In, out. Oxygen feeds all the cells in your body and improves the metabolism of the working of the cells. In, out. And as you breathe in, think about soft. As you bring out, think about belly. If the belly is soft and relaxed, it helps activate the vagus nerve, which wanders up from the belly, through the chest, to the central nervous system, to the brain. It quiets the body, slows the heart rate. In, out. Improves digestion, lowers blood pressure, helps muscles to relax. It also quiets the mind. It reduces activity in your amygdala. And this is a part of the emotional brain that registers fear and anger and exerts control over them. In and out. The vagus nerve is the antidote to the fight or flight response, to the stress response. The vagus nerve stimulates activity in the frontal part of the cerebral cortex in areas responsible for decision-making, judgment, self-awareness, and compassion. In and out. One branch of the vagus nerve connects with the center in our brain that makes it easier to connect with other people, to bond, So when you are breathing slowly and deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth with your belly soft and relaxed, you are relaxing your body and bringing your body into balance. You are quieting the fight or flight response, improving the activity in all the glands in the body as well as the nervous system and the endocrine and immune systems. You are more self-aware and are focusing better and feeling more compassionate for yourself, for others, as well as making it easy to connect with other people to feel closeness, which helps to relieve stress in and out. If your belly is soft and your abdominal muscles are relaxed, then all the other muscles begin to relax as well. And perhaps you can feel that now too as you breathe in and out. Again, if thoughts come, let them come, acknowledge them and let them go. Focus on the breath. And then we're going to do one last round. Inhale, exhale. Now slowly open your eyes and come back. And so my final point that I want to emphasize is that self-care isn't complimentary or an alternative. It's fundamental for our good health. There's many approaches that you can take when it comes to self-care. It's not a description, it's not prescribed. It's whatever you need for yourself. Meditation is a great way to take care of yourself. And this is something, the soft belly breathing, that you can do at any time. I usually start my day with it. It really helps. Sometimes I find myself doing it in the middle of the day or at night. It's something quick, doesn't cost you anything. But again, there are many options for self-care. And so this is one that I'd like to do that's quick, and there are many others that we can share. So that's it. Hope it was helpful. If so, leave a comment.
Thank you so much, Carmen. Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Leah. So now we are going to move to the breakout room so that we can get to hear from you. You could share your experiences with the speakers. So just quickly, here are the questions that will be discussed in the breakout rooms. And just have a look. What does self-care mean for you? How are you taking care of yourself during this time? Are there resources or practices you would like to share? Has anything you have heard today made you think differently about self-care? So just remember these questions. And Christy will send you now a message directing you to the breakout rooms. Just accept, and you will be going there discussing it with the other members.
Thank you, Hayat. I have set up about 10 different breakout rooms. We do not have a formal facilitator for each room, but I have tried to put someone in the room from the SGB team or someone who has participated in a gender cafe in the past. So if you have any technology problems, there should be someone there. We'll also be checking in with you. You'll have about 20 to 25 minutes, and then you will automatically be brought back to the main room. You will see a message on your screen that tells you to join a room. Just click on that and you'll automatically go. Welcome back, everyone. I hope we didn't lose people along the way, but I know some people were just joining at the very end. So a reminder that we will have a shared recording and shared resources, and we'll send the PowerPoints to everybody who registered, even if you weren't able to attend the whole event. So
I just want to clarify that the breakout rooms were not recorded. Those are personal and confidential. So it's only the main session that we started with.
I will turn it back to, I think, Kate at this point.
I have to unmute myself. So I think one of the things, are we going to report back, or we're just going to ask people to reflect on these questions right now, Christy? Yes, reflect. Okay. So we would just really invite you to think about the most useful strategies for self-care that you discussed. And if you want to share any more, please do so in the chat, or you can email them through to SGP as well. And so what we'll be doing is putting together a resource list that we'll also share when we share the PowerPoints out. And then something else that we'd been thinking about was whether or not members would be interested in diving deeper into practicing different self-care techniques and practices, perhaps led by members. So we know that we have quite a number of members who have background in this area, background in counselling, people interested. And so we were thinking that we could organise some Zooms and have different members share with those practices. So if that's something that we could, some support that we could provide as SGP and people are interested in that, please let us know. And we know this is a big topic, and so if there are other aspects of self-care, or if you're interested in continuing this conversation, it's certainly something, a conversation that I'm interested in facilitating, and something that SGP as well, you know, would like to support, because it is so important for all of us and for all members of SGP, and for us to be effective and successful in what we do, so that we can create the change that we're seeking to create. So please let us know. We're seeing in the chat right now, people would love more self-care sessions. Yay! Would definitely be interested. Yay! So that is great. And just so much, thank you so much for coming. And yes, we just want to make sure that everyone is taking care of yourselves. Whatever you're feeling right now, that's totally okay. And please make sure that you're reaching out or using the tools to support yourself in any way that you need to, because this situation is not normal for anyone, and we're all just trying to figure this out. So if we can work together to support each other to continue to figure it out, that would be great. And then you'll see on the screen, if you want to connect to myself or Carmen or Leah more, to talk to us, to learn more about you know, how we could support you as well, please feel free to do that. And then on the next slide, I think is the information of how to get in touch with SGP. So I think that's that it.
Thank you, Kate. And thank you to all of you for joining us today, and for all of you who have shared the link to your friends, your colleagues, and family members to bring more people together today. We really appreciate it. If you'd like more information about SGP and the other work we're doing, everything's on the slide. Again, we will send out links to the information today to those who registered, whether or not you're SGP member or not. Thank you all, and thank you, Kate, Leah, and Carmen, for sharing your expertise today. This has been fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank